let's quickly shift our focus to Modi and Xi border talks. 19th round of military talks that happened ahead of the BRICS summit. The entire ordeal of Xi being overplayed over Prime Minister Modi. Those were also some reports that made the rounds. There was a short abbreviated state visit that Ramaphosa gave to Xi Jinping, and then that entire ordeal of nobody came to receive Prime Minister. People in the West, the media reports, they've just been trying to downplay the Prime Minister's, appeal and, his aura when he's out there. Because, when the Prime Minister is out there from Papua New Guinea to the United States, people are going gaga goo goo.
Well,
it's like John Bon Jovi's
for Cyril Ramaphosa, what happened
music tour.
For Cyril Ramaphosa, he was caught between two world powers.
Right.
And he had to make peace with it. And one part of it is that China has, as I said yesterday, the Chinese have been trying to intensify their investments in South Africa. They have been trying to get into Africa. It's not only South Africa, get into Africa, especially mining, especially when it comes to infrastructure projects. They have a huge presence in Africa.
The irony is that China is looking at all these nations not as somebody who needs support and help, but as markets.
They're not only looking as markets, they are looking at significant exploitation of natural resources.
Absolutely.
See, the largest rare earth, what we know is that
minerals,
the largest rare earth minerals, that is in China. But China is said to have in fact exhausted it. And therefore China is going around the world because it's got a huge electronic industry that requires the rare earth minerals.
And what best for its next stop than Africa?
Because Africa historically has been rich with a lot of resources.
Now, all of this happened, but at the BRICS summit also, great news of expansion, several other nations, Egypt, Argentina, UAE, Iran, several of those nations, absolutely, Ethiopia. It's always nice to see. The more the merrier concept is always great on diplomatic terms. And what will happen to the acronym BRICS? Is it going to be BRICS Plus Pro Max?
We've been
that is something that we have to wait and watch. But on the front page here also, it's all G20 because let's not forget September 9th, 10th, that particular weekend is going to be the G20 weekend. Border talks, 19th round of border talks, the military talks were happening. Both sides both sides of the divide categorically saying that there is no headway that has been made, but both are constantly asking each other for quick disengagement at those particular trigger
that points. Is the thing. No, we are talking about what is disengagement. When you're talking about disengagement, Kabir, what is it that you're talking about disengagement? We have been having these talks for such a long time. The Chinese cannot be trusted at any cost in that way, because we have seen how they keep raising up the border issue every now and then. And then when we go out, if you look at this particular meet that's happened between Prime Minister Modi and Xi, nothing has come out of it. It's only an agreement to go for more talks to disengage. That's it.
Yeah,
unless and until something concrete happens on the ground, I wouldn't say these talks.
So are you suggesting that nothing concrete might end up out of this? Because the headlines read, Xi and Modi agree to intensify efforts for expeditious disengagement along
wasn't the 19th military talks also intensifying?
I agree. But then again, these are the leaders of two countries. Maybe it has a little bit more effect.
Kabir, I think it's great for a headline, but if you actually read it, it's just courtesy talk because they were in a third nation. They didn't want to look acrimonious to each other, and then you had the grouping of BRICS. But the fact remains is that the Prime Minister has been saying one thing. He's been saying that. And it has been conveyed well through back-channel diplomacy as well, that India is not going to compromise on its territorial integrity, and the Chinese need to ensure that they constructively engage with India. You just can't have India's market and start eating India territory, start nibbling on its territory, go ahead and bully it at its areas.
It's a fortnight before Delhi's G20 summit, where the Chinese President Xi Jinping is also expected again.
So that's what I'm saying.
So this meeting where they're sharing the platform on the sidelines of the BRICS summit and talking about their own border issues, which is actually a very sensitive issue, and like Varghese is suggesting that, no real headway, just lip service, it seems like. They had a conversation on BRICS sidelines in Johannesburg, says the Foreign Secretary, Vinay Quatra. Now, buffer zones to Depsang to Demchok, spotlight on pullback plan and the extent of it. With Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping agreeing to intensify efforts for expeditious disengagement and de-escalation along the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh, the spotlight is now on the exact contours of plans being drawn up by military commanders on the ground to pull back troops. So there is sort of like a plan on the cards, it seems, at least according to the Indian Express. The extent of disengagement and where on the LAC it will take place is not immediately clear. All right. So are we back to square one? That's another question. Sources said while clear orders are awaited, various modalities have been prepared for possible limited disengagement in phases.
Look at this. When you say limited disengagement, when you talk about limited disengagement, you're talking about maybe towards G20, you would have some kind of confidence building measures where they will try to say that, okay, we'll withdraw from here, we'll withdraw from these areas, and later they can harden their stance. For me, there was one defense minister who always, openly said that China is enemy number one of this country, and that was George Fernandez, who's no more. And he was part of the Vajpayee government, and he was the defense minister then. And it is a fact that our competition is with China. We have to understand that China has got geopolitical and also a historical understanding of what its territory should be. China is looking at, I was talking about, the palm and the five fingers, I was talking about that. China was looking at Bhutan, Nepal, Ladakh, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, and the palm is of course Tibet, and that strategy has been there, the territorial part of it has been there. So I would say you engage with China, but always be careful, because with China, China tends to negotiate with every inch of territory. Please mind it, China tends to negotiate with every inch of territory. They are ready to tire you out in negotiations. They are ready to wait it out for a long. They are not a impatient power. They are a patient power. For them, their diplomacy spans maybe 200 years from now onwards, 500 years from now onwards. They are looking at a very long-term plan. So engaging with China should be precise. Engaging with China should be very careful, because China, at the end of the day, is trying to become the only preeminent power in Asia and probably even replace the United States. So with its superpower ambitions, it does not want a powerful neighbor like India next to its doorstep. This is the actual truth of geopolitics, and therefore when we look at this disengagement, I'm saying it's just great engagement, but again, I always say that keep your powder dry.
Well, all right, I'm just going to take a look at how the, if the Hindi newspapers have covered it or not. भारत के मित्र देश बने ब्रिक्स के नए सदस्य। 1 जनवरी 2024 से ईरान, इथियोपिया, सऊदी अरब, यूएई, अर्जेंटीना बनेंगे सदस्य, ब्रिक्स के सदस्य। चीन ने किया पाकिस्तान को शामिल कराने का प्रयास, नहीं मिला भारत का समर्थन। So a consensus was sought, and of course India rejecting the proposal of Pakistan also joining the BRICS summit. But of course, will this have the right kind of effect on the ground is going to be the bigger question, because let's not forget this is happening just a fortnight ahead of the BRICS summit, the G20 summit in the national capital here in India.
See, just reading that part of it, when I said Prime Minister Modi has made it categorically clear to Xi that they need to respect the LAC. This is how Hindu has put it. In a conversation with President Xi Jinping of China, Prime Minister highlighted India's concerns on unresolved issues along the LAC in the western sector of India-China border areas. Mr. Quatra told the media, he said Mr. Modi had underlined that the maintenance of peace and tranquility in the border areas and observing and respecting the LAC are essential for normalization of India-China relationships. So we have
respect
a red line.
For LAC.
Yeah, respect for it. And that is essential for normalization. So that is the precondition, that you respect LAC, and then only we can think of normalization. So he's put a red underline when it comes to the diplomatic factor of engaging with China.
All right, so Modi, Xi meet on the BRICS sidelines, agree on expeditious de-escalation. That's the key word that everybody is talking about. Expeditious de-escalation in Ladakh. But the Prime Minister says that respect for the line of actual control is vital in this scenario. All right, what will happen in the G20, and will this really translate into actual disengagement in the Depsang and Demchok areas, and what kind of phase-wise manner of disengagement will be carried out? That is something for the military to take a look at of both these sides. But then again, the military also has been talking for 19 rounds of talks and no real headway. We'll have to wait and watch as to what happens. Count on News 9 to bring you all the latest on this particular aspect as well.